Hi, I'm Wick, and we just went to Levain's Bakery. I got a dark chocolate chip cookie with peanut butter in it, and I mean, you can see it's got like the right layers. It's a little bit dark chocolate, and it's got like the right goo to it, and perfect salt balance, perfect sweetness balance, and it's a little overwhelming. It's kind of like the bread of Jesus in cookie form. And, oh my god, it's so good.
Hi, welcome to the Creatrix of Washington Heights NYC. This is a knitting and crochet podcast coming to you from Manhattan Island in New York City. My name is Chrissy, and I want to welcome you. If you are a new-time viewer, welcome to my little crafty corner of the internet. And if you're a returning viewer, thanks for coming back to join me. Today is February 16th, 2020. So a few things, just a few administrative things to go over. I am hosting 2 make-alongs, and both of those can be found on Ravelry in our podcast group called the Creatrix of Washington Heights NYC. Come on over and join us. The first one is a make-along that features anything animal-inspired. It's called the Animal. And the second one is anything that's a work in progress. So come join me on both, and I hope to see you there. You can find me on Instagram and on Ravelry as CDP Viola. All right, so let's quickly get into the making. So I wanted to show you what I'm wearing today. So I'm wearing a cowl that was originally intended to be a shawl. It's called the Outlander shawl, and it's by the designer Roden. So here you can see it a little bit better. It uses twisted stitches, and it was absolutely inspired by the book series and the TV show Outlander. I made this 3 years ago. I used 2 different yarns in it, same yarn company, just 2 different kinds. The first is Tosh Merino Light, a single ply yarn in this kind of hot coral colorway that's called Espadrilles. And the second is in Tosh Sock, which is this aqua color. There, that's a really good representation of it. And this is in the color Oceana. So originally this was intended to be a shawl, but I was a fairly new knitter at that point, and I didn't realize the difference between sock weight or fingering weight and sport weight. I mean, I knew there was a difference. I didn't think there'd be that dramatic of a difference in size, and there was, basically. And so to make my life easier, after trying to wear it as a shawl a couple times, I just mattress stitched up the back and made it into a cowl so it doesn't fall off. So I think it's a really nice modification to make this rather wearable. It's a technique that uses traveling stitches, mosaic knitting traveling stitches, with cables, and it's actually super fun. So go ahead and check out this pattern if you want. You're hearing my dog Riley whine in the background. He's 14. He's been just, life is hard. Being a 14-year-old dog sometimes. So he's kind of sitting over to the side, just kind of listening to me podcast right now. All right. I have a finished object. I'm so excited I have a finished object. That's wonderful because a lot of my projects are more long-term. So when I get a finished object, it's really exciting for me. So here is my antler toque. This is a pattern by Tin Can Knits. I knit it in a single ply worsted weight yarn. There's dog fur and Chrissy fur apparently all over it. Yeah, it was an enjoyable knit. I really liked the cable pattern. I hadn't done cabling in a while, so it was nice to get back to doing some cabling. The yarn is a local to me yarn. It's from the Catskill Merino sheep farm. It is their worsted weight single ply yarn in the color logwood. The only thing I didn't like about this this combination of yarn and pattern, I think actually it works really well. The stitches pop. Again, I'm not a huge fan of single ply. If you've seen my previous episodes, that's okay. But the thing I really didn't enjoy about this was all the crocking. So crocking is when dye comes off the yarn and gets onto your skin. This was dyed with logwood, which is a natural dye, but basically there was so much crocking going on that I looked like a coal miner at the end of each session. which wasn't fun. The other thing that ended up happening, which I wasn't happy about, but this was probably my error. I probably didn't check how much yarn I needed for this hat based on the size I was knitting. I was basically knitting the largest size, but realized I wouldn't get enough repeats. But as I went into the decreases, and this has never happened actually before, I ran out. I tend to overestimate the amount of yarn I need. But given I knew I was going to put a pom-pom on this one, I just knew it because I really wanted a pom-pom hat. Yeah, it was okay. It's hidden. That part's hidden. So yeah, it's really, really fun hat. Really warm and squishy. Maybe not quite as long as I would have liked to have made it based on the fact that I have a ton of hair. And I would have liked it just a little slouchier. But, you know, it's fun. It's a fun hat. The pom-pom's a little bit on the heavy side, but that's okay. It's a vegan pom-pom that I got from Nitty City. They have, if you go to Nitty City, which is on 79th Street, and you take the 1 train. If you're in New York City and you want to get there, you take the 1 train and you basically head east off the 1 train exit on 79th Street exit. And it's like in that first block. Let's see, if you're coming from the train, it'll be on the right-hand side of the street. And there's like a Greek restaurant on the way. There's a pizza restaurant right next to it. Hope that helps you find it. But anyway, in the shop, right now the pom-poms are at the back. And they had both regular fur, like real fur, which I wouldn't do, and vegan. So this is like fake fur. So yeah, super fun. I love the fact that the tips are actually darker than the rest of the kind of pale pink, blush pink. So yeah, it's a really fun hat, really pretty hat. I'm really happy I made something. Attached very easily with a bow, so it can be removed. So I can block it again as needed. And I don't foresee this crocking onto my forehead. When I blocked it, I really made sure I rinsed out all the dye. I really worked on that. So yeah, so it's all done. Super happy with that. So let's go on to works in progress. I have a few, and I've cast on some things. I was a little bit naughty. I tend to only work on one thing at a time in general. I'm fairly monogamous. I can have like 2 or 3 and not get stressed out. And like long-term projects, being on needles on hooks doesn't bother me at all. Like blankets that I come to every few months, that doesn't faze me. But generally, like, my anxiety starts to get to me when I have a lot of projects. But I don't know. I've had this huge bout of castonitis. So yeah, I've got quite a few things on the needles that I wasn't expecting, and I think I'll be casting on more pretty soon. But I'm hoping to get this first project off the needles in the next week or so. So I've been working on my breathing space. This is a pattern by Vera Valimaki, and I'm knitting it out of Malabrigo in the Chocolate Amargo colorway. There's a really good representation. It's a chocolate color, like dark chocolate, which is my favorite anyway. And the other color that is striping with it is Hedgehog Fibers Sock in the Teacup colorway. And it's got pops of browns and tans and hot pinks and blues, like baby blues. So it's really fun. It's a really, really fun knit. When I last podcasted, I was still on the body. And I was to this stitch marker right here. And so I had to knit down. That doesn't seem like a lot, but it really is a lot. Because I'm not small. No, I'm not small. So yeah, to get this to basically that point and bind it off, it took quite a while. Found out after I bound it off, a few days later, I was looking at it as I was working on the first sleeve, which I'm almost done with, by the way. I was binge watching The Witcher yesterday, as well as I watched the movie The Two Popes on Netflix. That was really, really good. That was really, really good. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. That's a phenomenal movie. But I was working on my sleeves all day yesterday. And so I got pretty far. Like I was here. Let's see, where was I? I was like right here. Beginning of yesterday. For me, that's a lot of knitting in one day. So yeah, so I'm almost done with the sleeves. I'm marking my progress as far as like where my decreases are with my little stitch markers that I have. And it's enjoyable. I tried on the body to make sure it fit, and it fits beautifully. It is like the exact right everything. So once it blocks, I think I'll get just a little bit more length, which will be nice. But I did find, as I was working on the sleeve, I dropped I'm trying to find it, in my ribbing, I actually dropped a stitch down like 5 rows, 6 rows. So I'll just pick it up after I finish the sleeve. I'll pick it up and sew it in. I don't think it's a big deal. I'm definitely not ripping this one out because it does fit so well. Yeah. So yeah, looking forward to having that off the needles in probably a week and a half, depending on my knitting mojo over the next few days, and if I can stay on just one project. So I am entering. Well, this is for my spring cleaning mal. Excuse my mouth not working and saying words because words are hard sometimes. That's for my spring cleaning mal because I really just want to get it off the needles. It's been since September. I looked it up. I've had it on the needle since September, since before I moved to New York City. So I'm ready to wear that puppy and get it done. Also, because, one sweater on the needles isn't enough, apparently. I did cast on something that I was planning to cast on. I talked about it last time. Showed the yarn for it. I did cast it on it, and it's super fun so far. This is my Elephant Promenade. No elephants yet. But this is the neckline. It's on a super small needle, so it's hard to tell. But this is the neckline and the short row shaping of the back. So I'm at the stage. It's Pay For It pattern by Annie Lupton. So I don't want to say too much, but I'm at the stage where I have to do a bunch of increases and then I start color work, which is super fun and super exciting. And sometimes gets super annoying because I have to pay attention. But the yarn is yummy. It is so nice. First of all, the speckle. Can we just give it up for Molly at a homespun house? Like, she is one of my favorite speckly people. Is that a term? Maybe. But anyway, her dyeing technique for these speckles is amazing. This colorway was a monthly colorway for, it was a Little House on the Prairie inspired, The Long Winter. It's not available. It was only available for 1 month. It was a surprise kind of skein, so you didn't know exactly what it would look like. But I love it. And I don't knit a lot in blues, which is interesting because I love blue. I look great in blue. You wouldn't be able to tell because I'm wearing a blue cowl, but so many of my knits are like in burgundies and reds and crazy, like hot colors, lots of greens, which is interesting because I don't wear a ton of green otherwise. It just depends on what I gravitate towards, right? So there you go. But yeah, so that's a Molly's sock yarn from a homespun house in the Long Winter colorway. And I've paired that with Yoth yarns. It's in the Little Brother base, and the colorway is Concord Grape. And of course, there's like fuzzies all over everything because both myself and my dog are shedding, being that we're about to hit spring. But this is really great yarn because it's got 10% cashmere in it, and it's just so squishy. Both yarns are really tightly plied, which is like my favorite kind of yarn to work with. It's super bouncy and fun. So yeah, I'm looking forward to making progress on this. I'm knitting this for, well, it's going to be a short sleeve sweater. I'm doing the short sleeve version of the Elephant Promenade, but I'm decided to cast it on for Ellie from Craft House Magic. Ellie, who happens to be my doppelganger. I'll tell you about that in a second. She's hosting a retro mal, and I figured 70s Little House on the Prairie. Yeah, it's pretty retro. But yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about the doppelganger thing. So the first time I watched Ellie, I was still married to my ex-husband, and he comes into the room and he knows I watch knitting podcasts all the time. And he's like, he does a double take and he saw the TV and he looked at me and he's like, wait, what? Why do you have a British accent on TV? And I'm like, that's not me, you idiot. That is a different person. My son will watch me, like, I'll be watching it. My son, who's 5, will come in and he'll point at the TV. He's like, Mommy. So I get it. We look somewhat alike. Yeah, especially when I do my hair really, really curly. I did not do it curly today, but yeah, we look somewhat alike and I get that. And that's fine. We've talked about it actually via social media at some point. But yeah. So there's my Elephant Promenade. Okay, moving on to our next work in progress. Let's see. Talked about that. Talk about my socks. So I'm working on my Franken socks. I have shown them before. I'm working on them concurrently. I'll show you the one that's not as far along because I'm in the middle. Yarn bar fall in my bag. In the middle of doing a heel on the other one. But here we go. This is where we're at. This is the Weasley's Homestead pattern by Erica Luder. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. And all I'm doing is every time the pattern changes, I change colors. It's as simple as that. So I started with a 1x1 twisted rib for the cuff, and that is in a Nora George Lucky Dip colorway that I bought along with my 12 Days of Christmas Advent scent that I got from her. The next yarn is a Homespun House, and that is, it was a one-time colorway. It was one of her Sock of the Month clubs. It was called Give Peace a Chance, which I thought was phenomenal because I wasn't expecting that, and I'm a Beatles fan, so that's cool. The next yarn, I believe, is MJ Yarns. I'm pretty sure that has some cashmere in it. And I knit that in a shawl, originally, the 100 Acre Wood Shawl by Helen Stewart, and I picked that color to look like Winnie the Pooh. Well, yeah, that's kind of Pooh Bear colored. And the colorway, I think, is called Cream. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's Cream. The next color that was a Lucky Dip by Nora George. The next two colors are either Nora George or Sweet Sparrow Knits, because I got the Advent calendar and the Nora George at the same time. I was opening them at the same time. I can't remember which one's which, but they're really beautiful colors. The next one is Sweet Georgia yarn in the colorway Tooth Fairy. That's the blue and white speckle. And I knit those into socks once upon a time. Our next color is another one of either Sweet Sparrow or Nora George yarns from this year's Christmas. Basically Advent calendars. And then our final color is another Homespun House. And this is in Hagrid's Hut. That was one of the Harry Potter sock club, like 3-month clubs that came. And I did knit a pair of socks in that. Little Progress Keeper. This came in my Advent from Sweet Sparrow yarns. And my the other Progress Keeper I'm using also from Sweet Sparrow yarns, same calendar, and it keeps flipping backwards. But it's a really cute little, God bless. It's a really cute little honeycomb with a bee. Super cute. But I'm at halfway through the heel on this. I'm doing a dropped heel. I'm doing an Eye of Partridge. I know I messed up at the beginning, but I'm not ripping it back because I was trying to be cool and knit in a cafe here. Just down the road waiting for a colleague to join me so we can go to some meetings. But yeah, knit. And that is Malabrigo in the pearl colorway, Malabrigo sock. And that was leftovers from my Zwag sweater. So nothing's going to waste here. Nothing at all. So yeah, I'm just working on those as I feel like I have time and energy. And a lot of times that's great travel knitting. It's easy to put in my bag. The heel isn't so easy to do traveling, but because I have to count and I have to think. Who wants to do that when you're out and about? All right, and then one more knitted work in progress. And this is a new cast on. This is really cheeky. And I'm using this for 2 different knit-alongs. So with Outlander coming out, and again, big Outlander fan, I decided to join Joanna or Opera Joe's from Stitching the High Notes, her Outlander make-along. And I got several years ago, I want to say it's at least 3 years ago, I got yarn from Jimmy Bean's Wool that was actually kind of in a kit to make one of Rachel Roden's other shawls, like Outlander-inspired shawls, that came along with the release, I think maybe of the 2nd season of Outlander. And I was like totally I was going to totally make that shawl, but I never did because I wanted to see what it looked like. Because one thing about surprise, like mystery make-alongs is like you don't know what it looks like. And even though you like some of them, oftentimes I don't get started until it's already started, and then I can kind of see what it looks like. And then I can make the choice if I want to join or not. Because at that time, I had done a couple of mystery ones that I wasn't happy with the end result. So it's kind of like, well, let me wait and see, because if I wait and see, maybe I'll do it. Well, anyway, I didn't do it because I just didn't do it. But the yarn is amazing. As far as the colors. So the first color it's Lorna's Laces, shepherd sock. I love the color. It's called Fjord. And this is like a regular colorway for Jimmy Beans. So that's for Lorna's Laces. This is a pretty typical, like you can find this, no problem. But the only problem with this was I've had a lot of breakage with this already. In winding the skein, it's broken several times. In knitting, I've had a couple breaks. So that doesn't bode well. Not sure if it has some moth damage. I store my yarn pretty safely, so I'm just wondering if when it was shipped to me, if it was older yarn they put in with the kits that had already had. I don't know. I'm not sure. All I know is that I've gotten a lot of breakage with this. I haven't found anything that would indicate that there's insect damage, but I don't know. But this is the one. This is the special one. This was specific for Outlander. This is called Jamie's Kilt. And if you look carefully, it is all the colors in Jamie. Oh, there we go. Now you can really see it. In Jamie's Kilt. So yeah, so if you watch the show, you'll recognize these colors. And I think together, they're quite beautiful. So I'm going to make this into a shawl. The shawl I've chosen is by Erica Jakowski, also known as Fiddle Knits. And I can use this not just... yarn barf. All this yarn barf. Like, yeah, I need to fix this. Not right now, but I will fix my bag. But yeah, it's called, I can use this for the retro mal for Craft House Magic as well. Because it's based on a song by the Turtles called Me and You and Me, no matter how we toss the dice, I'll have to be. You guys know that song, right? Yeah, I figured so. Anyway, so yeah, I started the shawl. It's really cool. It has like these diamondy cables, and it has like the mosaic knitting. It's not unlike this in some ways, but it's humongous. It is a humongous shawl. So I'm really looking forward to it. Yay! My stitch markers on this, most of them are the ones that are kind of like these beads with flowers and pretty cute beads. Those are all from Sweet Sparrow. No, they're not. They're not. They're from So Sweet Violet. My little mittens, I just got like some little mittens. They're like, these are commercial. These are a commercial one. But they were super cute, so I added them. So, and they're living in my So Sweet Violet bag from Valentine's Day 2 years ago that I got, which is super cute and sparkly and has all sorts of, like, I don't know, little bits of gunk from children. Because my kids, this used to live in my car, and my kids would get stuff on the bag, which is why you have a knitting bag, by the way. It protects you from the gunk. Just saying. My final work in progress is living in my embroidered bag that I made for myself. Did you hear the southern come out? It's my corner to corner crochet blanket, and I haven't put too much on it, but I did put on 2.5 rows. I finished off the ball I was on, and I started a new ball, which is mostly hand dyed yarns. So, yeah, it's very, very colorful. One day it will be the size of a queen bed, and one day it's going to get one serious block, like at least soaked in water and dried in the sun, because some of this yarn has had history. So what I was saying is, yeah, that yarn, some of that yarn is, you can smell the dust coming off of it because it has some serious history in it. Not just from me, but I did inherit some of it from other people. Well, one person. Finally, I was given a really beautiful skein of yarn from a friend of mine named Steve. He is the dyer behind Manhattan Fiber Arts. You can find him on Etsy. And he gave me this really beautiful skein, kind of as almost in a trade, because I had that alpaca I was allergic to that I was trying to knit into his shawl, and there was so much of it left. He loves alpaca. He loves to hold the double with stuff. So I just gave it to him one day. I said, here you go. Have it. And so then a couple days later, I found this on my desk at work, which was pretty cool. So this is a BFL superwash fingering weight yarn. And I'm trying to figure out what to make with it. I could make a hat. I could make a knit thing, but I'm more than likely, because I have been really big into sweaters, I'm probably going to use this as the color work of a sweater. What I would really love to see is actually see this paired with some like baby blue, like sky blue. I think that would be a really cool combination. So, yeah. So as far as knitting stuff, I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, please join our make-alongs. Come join me in the Ravelry groups and find me on Instagram at CDP Viola. It was really nice speaking to you today, and I hope you have a great week. Bye!